This exclusive interview is brought to you by RAIRFoundation.com. July 25th with Rasmus Paludan. This is an exclusive interview for RAIRFoundation.com. Rasmus, thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to us. I know that not only are you busy, but things are crazy over there. I just want to start by asking this question. There was a bunch of media a few weeks ago about you saying that you had been, I think, everything from convicted or arrested to actually jailed for a charge they nebulously called racism. And I'm having a lot of trouble understanding it because I know that you even represented the last blasphemy case that took place in Denmark. So none of this makes any sense. Could you tell us what happened, what the charges were, and bring us up to date, please?
Absolutely. Well, I should bring you up to date first with the fact that on the June the 5th, the Constitution Day in Denmark, a 52-year-old Lebanese Muslim out a knife again tried to kill me. So that little caveat I wanted to add. But what happened later in June was the media don't really care that a Lebanese Muslim tries to kill a Danish political leader. They don't care about that. But they do care if I'm brought to trial on bogus charges. So that's what happened. Basically, the police have been collecting charges for years, and then they've just pooled everything together. So they had like 6 charges, which is basically regarding the hate speech act in Denmark, I guess you could call it. It's not really racism, though they probably call it racism, but it's if you say something that hurts the feelings of people based on their race, national origin, or religious beliefs, basically. And of course, this was all because I said the truth about Islam, and in some cases, they thought I said the truth about Muslims also, and that's not allowed. So they brought me to trial for that, and the only thing that I was really acquitted of was the only thing that wasn't really, well, there was a few speeding tickets, but we'll put them aside. I was also charged with reckless endangerment of a foreigner, a Muslim, who tried to stop me with 4 of his friends from driving away from him by going in front of my car. And then eventually, I kept driving at a very short pace, he sat himself on my car, and I drove for maybe 20 meters, and then he graciously stepped off. Now, that was absolutely self-defense. And for that reason, the court said that I shouldn't be punished for that because that was reasonable self-defense. But for everything else, the court thought, oh yeah, it's a good thing to punish you for speaking the opinion of your 63,000 voters. So, I mean, I think I would be a very poor political leader if I didn't speak the political opinions of my voters, or at least the political opinions that my voters elected me or tried to elect me for. So I had some different charges regarding statements, and it was very vague. I mean, the things they could find that they would pin on me, it's very vague, but it's not like the sentence was 3 months jail, 2 months of those 3 months supposed to be suspended. In Denmark, the unsuspended part of a sentence, if it's no more than 6 months, you can serve that with house detention. So if that verdict had been final, I wouldn't have been going to jail anyway. But of course, we appealed because it's outrageous. I don't suspect it will be much different in the appeals court, though, because the Danish judges hate me, and also because they're very socialist, Marxist, but also the lay judges, the jurors, if you will, they're actually elected by the political parties. So I'm actually convicted by members of the party of my opponents. That's the way it is in Denmark. But, I mean, we could go into a lot of detail. I'm not sure whether you want that, but, I mean, for instance, I said regarding a man from Turkey who had been charged in 1983 with murdering an innocent bystander because he was pissed that his brother had been jailed on completely reasonable charges. Now, that person was acquitted in 1983, not because he wasn't guilty, because everybody in that town knew he was guilty, just wanted to convict him. had smartly moved all the evidence to Turkey before the police could catch him. That person was one of the people at a protest I did in August 2018 who pulled people away who wanted to have a dialogue with me. Now, it's very funny that a Turkish murderer would interfere like a self-proclaimed police officer and pull people away from a political debate in Denmark, a country he shouldn't be in the first place. And therefore, I thought he would fit better in Pakistan or maybe the Gaza Strip. I could have mentioned he would fit better in his home country of Turkey also, with Erdogan being a perfect match for this murderer. But that was actually one of the points I was convicted of, because they thought I was demeaning Muslims by stating that this particular person who was a murderer should not live in Denmark.
Wow. So now has there been anything like a trial yet?
Yeah, we were in court for 2 days. One of the most funny thing is that in Denmark, you can bring a libel suit. If you're slandered, you can bring a libel suit, but you have to do that in civil court. It's not something that the police will handle. But there is a special rule in the law regarding criminal procedures that says that if the benefit of the Commonwealth, the public good, demands it, then the police may bring cases that are normally for the civil court. And in this case, they brought a case for a Somali female who was standing in one of the protests and laughing while speaking with a police officer. And I said to her, well, I think I recognized you from a particular street in Denmark. You often offer services there. Now, as I explained in court, I believed I'd actually seen her in a hair extension shop on this street, but she believed that meant that she was in fact a prostitute. Now, that's not what I said, but an Afghan police officer here in Denmark, I guess he has Danish citizenship, but I mean, he's an Afghan. He decided that he wanted to make a case of this, even though that would be a case for the civil court. So he asked her, do you feel, that your feelings have been hurt here? And she said, yeah, my feelings have been hurt. So they brought that in a criminal trial that I had slandered her by saying that I'd seen her offer her services on a particular street, which is true, I believe. Anyway, not only was I convicted of that, but she had a free lawyer appointed under a very special rule. Usually, if you can have a lawyer appointed if you've been assaulted or raped. Though in some cases, when I've been assaulted, they denied it because they thought it was menial, so it wasn't a serious enough assault for me to have a lawyer appointed. Under a very special rule, a lawyer can be appointed in other criminal cases as well. In this case, they appointed her a lawyer for free, for government money, for her libel claim in the criminal trial. Now, apparently, the police and prosecution thought that the betterment of the common good required that they brought this libel charge against me in a criminal trial on her behalf. And the court decided to appoint her a lawyer for free, using the very special rule that such a lawyer can be appointed if very special circumstances demand it. That lawyer said that obviously she needed 6,000 Canadian dollars in restitution for this terrible, terrible slander. And the court agreed.
So do you actually have to pay her $6,000?
If the appeals court agreed, then yes. I mean, fortunately, people have already donated to me graciously, but I mean, I don't think any good donor's money should go to that person either. And also, she's a liar. I'm not afraid of calling her a liar. I mean, obviously, she's a Muslim, and there is something called taqiyya in Islam, which means you're allowed or almost mandated to lie to the heathen. But she's also a liar because she wrote on Facebook afterwards that I had said that she was a Somali prostitute. Now, that's a lie. I never said that, and we have that on videotape that I never said that. So she may not be a Somali prostitute, but she definitely is a Somali liar, and we know that for a fact. She's proven that herself. But I also think it's quite interesting that she's very offended, but she goes out of her way to spread the fact that she's been insulted. I mean, maybe she wasn't that insulted when it comes down to it.
It almost sounds like the other parties or the Danish government has sort of swept up every little crumb that they could into a dustpan that they could possibly cast at you, and
Yeah.
just created this sort of melange of unrelated charges in order to take you out of a position where you might actually win some real authority in the Danish government. I got to say, it sounds a lot like similar things that have happened to Geert Wilders and to Marine Le Pen and to other leaders, where bogus or ludicrous charges, unprecedented ones, were done.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, so you haven't been to jail, is that right? And there's no imminent threat of jail?
No, I mean, there's no imminent threat of jail. I mean, the prosecution asked for 4 months, whereas some of it could be suspended. I think it's unlikely the appeals court will give a harsher sentence than that. That would be unlikely. But I mean, basically, the Danish courts are a joke, because if you're famous and a politician and they hate you, they don't care about the law. And I knew this already last year in July, when they sentenced me for stating the obvious, that the average IQ in countries is far below the average IQ in European countries. Now, that's a fact, and also it's a fact that the ANC hasn't ruled South Africa very well. So I guess that maybe some people in the ANC are from a low IQ population group. Now, that could be any skin color population group. It's not like there's a rule that the ANC has to be ruled by black people. So that was what I was convicted of last year. And if that's like the amateurish affairs in the Danish court system, then there's no kind of justice here. And as you said, I mean, we've seen the same thing with Geert Wilders and with Marine Le Pen and with Tommy Robinson in Britain, even worse there. So, I mean, I just have to be very, very careful. And I've been very careful for several years, but even though you're very careful, I mean, they will try and pin everything on you.
Rasmus Paludan, I can't thank you enough for taking your time out of your schedule to explain this. I hope we can catch up certainly after the next event, the next court appearance. Please get back in touch and let us know where we are. And also, is there anything that the readers and followers and members of RAIR Foundation can do to help you?
Well, I mean, if somebody has money, we really, really need money, because there are various security concerns that have become very imminent. So I do have a Bitcoin account. If you want to make a donation, I'd be much obliged.
Once again, thank you very much, Rasmus.